Yeah, I mean, I think on the top lines here, which is, did the NRA properly administer its funds? Jury says no. Did Wayne LaPierre harm them by diverting funds toward his personal expenses? The jury says yes, to the tune of $5.4 million. Those are the top line thing. Those are the biggest takeaways that everyone's going to look at from the general public. And those are both very negative for the NRA. But I do want to get into some of the other stuff that we found, because it was, like I mentioned before, some of it's a little bit of a mixed bag on kind of the tail end, the other charges in this case. Well, first of all, a number of them were removed before we got to this point by the judge, who just found that the AG did not do a fantastic job. I don't think it's going to matter much because, again, the top line stuff is what everybody's going to look at. But the AG wasn't able to prove a number of things that she accused the NRA of, or at least not within the statute of limitations or within the law, right? Like some of these things might look really bad, like Wayne LaPierre, a lot of the yacht stuff, right? We hear a lot about Wayne LaPierre's travel on yachts with his friends, the Mackenzies, who are also people who do business with the NRA. And, they go on yacht trips, and then MMP would get a big bump in the Mackenzie's company would get a big bump in pay. After that, they had some of this circumstantial stuff on this point, which might look really bad to an outsider, but the judge determined wasn't valid charge in the case after they got through the 6 weeks of trial. So you had a number of things that didn't even make it to this jury, although it was still a 17-page long jury sheet that they had to fill out, which is probably why it took them a week to come back. But, even on the things that did make it, you had some sort of interesting outcomes, maybe mixed things at the lower level, especially against John Frazier, for instance. I think I mentioned earlier, they found that he authorized the material falsehood on a government filing, but they also found, that there wasn't cause to remove him from his position. So it's kind of a mixed bag for Frazier, who, again, I think is kind of a minor player in all this, given that he wasn't very much in charge of what was going on legally at the NRA, although his role makes him, liable in these situations. But so kind of a mixed thing there. The same thing for Woody Phillips, the former treasurer, who was involved in making a lot of these contracts. And, there was some stuff that came up that didn't even make it into the trial. There's an audio tape of him arranging a scheme with the NRA's former top contractor, Ackerman McQueen, where they were going to issue Ackerman McQueen credit cards to an NRA employee so that they could spend money on private jets and luxury hotel stays and try to keep those things off of the NRA's books so they didn't have to report them. That audio tape came out during the trial. It didn't make it into evidence, but they, in that situation, they found that his post-employment contract, he had this like $30,000 a month post-employment contract where it wasn't really clear. It was consulting. It wasn't really clear what he, if anything, did for the NRA for that money. But, they found that was an inappropriate related party transaction, but also that it didn't harm the NRA financially. Again, I think, like I mentioned earlier, maybe because it didn't last very long. The next treasurer came in and canceled it pretty quickly. So that might be why they didn't find a huge financial burden for there. If I'm understanding, all this stuff just came out, so I don't want to. Hopefully, I'm getting it all right. This is how I'm remembering it. If not, well, I'll make sure to correct this on the next episode. But that's how I read it coming down. And same thing for a lot of the related party transactions. You had a lot of related party transactions, basically where a board member was being paid for something, where the jury found that these were not approved properly in advance, like they're supposed to be, but they were convinced by the NRA's actions on most of them, where the audit committee had gone through and approved them after the fact, which is kind of interesting, except for two, which one was Susan LaPierre's hair and makeup, and the other one were speeches given by, or payments for speeches by David Keene. For some reason, they found that one was not appropriately retroactively approved, but some of the other speech payments were. So it's a little bit mixed there too. I think those things are kind of ancillary to the potential big punishments here, but it's important to understand the full breadth of this ruling. And it's not like a total win for the Attorney General, but it seems more like a win on the points that everyone's going to care about, to be honest.